Before we begin, I want to be absolutely clear about why I'm making this video to begin with. I'm not here to sell you anything, pressure you into purchasing a home, or convince you that buying right now is the correct decision. For some people, waiting may absolutely be the wiser choice. My only purpose is to give you an honest and realistic understanding of the options, the potential advantages, and the possible risks you should consider before making your decision. Whether you choose to buy now, wait 1 to 6 months, or simply not purchase at all, I only want you to have the complete picture so you can make the best decision that is best for you, your family, and your financial circumstance. Before you decide to sit on the sidelines for another month or 2 or 6, waiting for your interest rates to come down, you need to understand one important possibility. Lower rates may not make your next home purchase more affordable. In fact, waiting could end up costing you substantially more. Let me ask you a very direct question. If you're thinking about buying a home in Laguna Niguel or anywhere else in South Orange County, are you waiting for interest rates to drop before you make your move? I completely understand the logic. It's not unusual. Rates are higher than buyers really want. Monthly payments can feel somewhat uncomfortable. Affordability is already stretched. So naturally, you may be thinking, why would I buy now if rates could be lower in 6 months from now? On the surface, that sounds brilliant, like a smart strategy. But in the market like Laguna Niguel, it could actually backfire. And here's why. Because when interest rates fall, you may not be the only buyer who decides it's finally time to enter the market. More buyers could mean more competition, fewer choices, multiple offers, and higher home prices ultimately. The money you hope to save with a lower interest rate could quickly be erased by the additional price you have to pay for the home. This video is not about pressuring you to buy. It's not about telling everybody to rush right out and purchase a home immediately. That would be irresponsible of me. I'm not wired that way. It is about making sure that before you decide to make a purchase or to wait, you understand what waiting could really cost you and why the best opportunity may not look the way most people and most buyers expect it to look. But stay with me here, because in just a few minutes I'm going to show you the simple math that many buyers never really calculate, and it may completely change the way you think about waiting for lower interest rates. The mistake is focused on one number, while several other numbers may be moving against you. Yes, the interest rate matters, but it's not the only part of the equation. The better question is not simply, will mortgage rates come down? The better question is, if rates come down, and they will, what happens to home prices, buyer competition, available inventory, and my ability to negotiate at the same time? That is where buyers get caught. As I record this video right now, mortgage rates are still hovering in the mid 6% range, average for a 30-year fixed mortgage. Reportedly right now at about 6.49%. Buyers are frustrated. I understand. Monthly payments are higher than you'd like, and I completely understand why waiting feels logical. But what if interest rates do drop and we're waiting for that event to take place? What happens in that market? Does it become more difficult? Does it become easier? Is difficult expensive? Stay tuned. I'm going to unwrap this for you. This is where the trap begins. The same event buyers are hoping for, lower interest rates, may be the very thing that brings their competition rushing back into the market. The other buyer who wants to buy the same home as you. A tremendous number of buyers are waiting for the same exact signal that you're waiting for. They're waiting for the Federal Reserve. They're waiting for rate cuts. They're waiting for headlines to say mortgage rates have finally dropped. But when that headline arrives and that gets published, you will not be the only buyer who sees it. A lower rate does not help you. It improves affordability for every buyer who has been sitting on the sideline. Buyers who stop searching may restart. Buyers who were hesitant may suddenly become confident. Buyers who could not qualify before may be now able to qualify and enter the market. That means demand can return very quickly. In Laguna Niguel, where the supply of desirable homes, well-located homes already limited, that could create a dramatic difference between buying and the buying environment. Today, some buyers are hesitant. Some homes are negotiable. Some sellers are more realistic than they were during the hottest years of the market, 2020, 2021, 2022. But if rates decline, the market may not become easier. It may become more crowded, more competitive. And Laguna Niguel is exactly the kind of market where that matters. So now let's bring it home to Laguna Niguel, because this is not simply a national conversation about real estate. What happens nationally matters, but the decision you make should be based on the conditions of the specific market where you're intending to buy. Recent housing data has placed Laguna Niguel's median sales price at about $1.45 million for a single-family detached home. Redfin's recent figures show prices increasing by more than 7% a year, year over year, while Zillow placed the average Laguna Niguel home value at $1.5 million, with an increase of more than 3% over the previous year. The exact figures will continue to change. Different sources have different numbers, but the larger point is important. Laguna Niguel has not experienced a major collapse in home value, simply because mortgage rates are high. Yes, affordability is a challenge. Yes, certain properties are taking longer to sell. And yes, buyers currently have more leverage on some of the homes that they did during the most aggressive period, 2020 through 2022. But better homes, the homes with the most desirable location, the best views, incredible floor plans, upgrades, better lots, and community features are still attracting attention. And here is what really matters. The homes most buyers are waiting to purchase are usually the exact home every other serious buyer is also waiting to purchase. Most buyers are not waiting for just any home. They're waiting for the good floor plan, the remodeled kitchen, the cul-de-sac location, the ocean or city lights view, larger lot, gated community, single level or downstairs bedroom, or simply the home that feels different from everything else they've ever seen. But those properties do not suddenly become easier to purchase when interest rates fall and more buyers return to the market. In many cases, the opposite happens. The most desirable homes receive the greatest benefit from renewed buyer confidence because those homes already have a limited supply and a broader appeal. When demand increases, buyers may find themselves competing against several other people for the same exact property, offering closer to the asking price, reduced contingencies, and receiving fewer seller concessions. So let's stop and speak openly in theory. Let us look at the actual numbers, because this is where the strategy of waiting for a lower interest rate can begin to unravel. Since we're talking about Laguna Niguel, let's use Laguna Niguel at home prices at about $1.45 million. With a 20% down payment, the mortgage could and would be about $1.16 million. At an interest rate of 6.49%, today's interest rate, the estimated principal and interest payment would be roughly $7,320 per month. Now let's assume you wait and mortgage rates do decline to about 6%. If the price of the home remains exactly the same, your estimated principal and interest payment would fall to about $6,950 per month. That's a savings of roughly $370 a month. Substantial. So yes, viewed by itself, the lower interest rate clearly helps. And this is exactly where many buyers stop calculating. They compare today's payment with the future payment while assuming the home prices will remain exactly the same, frozen, and inventory will be unchanged, and their negotiating position will be exactly the same then as it is now. But do not stop the math there, because the next part of the calculation is the part that could easily erase nearly all of those anticipated savings. So what happens when interest rates come down, but the price of the homes goes up while you're waiting? If that $1.45 million home increases in value by only 3 or 3.5%, approximately the annual increase recently reflected in Zillow's figure, the price rises roughly 1.5 million. With 20% down and a 6% mortgage rate, the estimated principal and interest payments would now be about $7,190 per month. You waited. You received the lower interest rate, but because the price of the home naturally increased, most of the monthly savings disappeared, almost completely. Now consider the stronger year-over-year increase recently reflected in Redfin's numbers. That same property appreciates by 7.3%. Its price now rises to $1,550,000. At a 6% interest rate with 20% down, the estimated principal and interest payment would be about $7,460 a month. In the example, you waited for the lower rate and ended up with a higher monthly payment. You may also need a larger down payment, pay more in property taxes, and face more competitive negotiation for the same exact home. That's the danger buyers need to understand. A lower interest rate alone does not automatically mean expensive homes become cheaper and more affordable. So the real question is simply not, will rates come down? The real question is, will rates come down far enough to offset the higher purchase price, increased competition, reduced negotiating power, and fewer desirable homes on the market from which to choose? Buyers often think in one dimension. Rates go down, therefore payments go down. But in a desirable market like Laguna Niguel, the formula is far from completed. Lower interest rates can create more demand can create more competition can produce multiple offers, fewer seller credits, less flexibility on repairs, and higher sales prices. The buyer who waited may not return to a stronger market. That buyer may return to a market more crowded, pursuing the same expensive home with less room to negotiate. Now, I want to be fair. Could interest rates decline while home prices remain effectively flat? Absolutely. Could some areas, a few, but could some areas, price ranges, or individual properties soften? Yes. Real estate does not move exactly the same direction in every single neighborhood or at every price point. But waiting is not automatically the safest choice. Waiting is still a bet. You are betting that rates will decline enough to make a meaningful difference. You're betting that prices will not increase enough to erase the savings. You're betting that the competition will remain manageable. You're betting that the home you want still is available when you decide to act. And that brings us to a risk no mortgage calculator can show you. The right home may be gone. So I've been doing this for 30 plus years right here in Laguna Niguel. And Laguna Niguel is not a market filled with unlimited supply of identical homes. It contains coastal close neighborhoods, gated communities, view homes, luxury condominiums, larger estate properties, single level homes, and established communities where homeowners may remain for many, many years. The home you pass on today may not easily be replaced 6 months from now. Buying a home is not like buying a stock or a commodity. You cannot necessarily return later and purchase the exact same product. The exact home may be gone. The view may be gone. The lot and lot size may be gone. The floor plan may not be available. And the next comparable property could be priced considerably higher. The decision is also much more about just the mortgage payment. It affects your commute, proximity to the beach, access to the places you visit regularly, the community that you prefer, the size and design of the home, and how you intend to live for the next many years. Do you want a single level home, a gated community, an ocean view, a cul-de-sac street location? Do you want to be closer to Dana Point or Laguna Beach, the harbor, or a particular part of South Orange County? These characteristics are not interchangeable. That is why attempting to time the perfect interest rates can sometimes cause a buyer to miss an irreplaceable property and opportunity. And that is why the right strategy is not panic buying or endless waiting. So my advice is not to buy because you are afraid of missing out. But I also would not allow the search for a perfect condition to prevent you from acting when the right opportunity appears. Perfect conditions rarely announce themselves in advance. In fact, some of the best opportunities appear when buyers feel uncertain and many of their competitors are hesitating, like now. During that period, you may be able to negotiate the purchase price, request for repairs, receive closing cost credits, secure a seller-funded rate or buy down, or purchase without competing against many multiple buyers. That is not panic buying. That is strategic buying. A panic buyer says, I have to buy something immediately. A strategic buyer says, I know my numbers, I know what I want, and if the right home appears at terms that make sense, I am prepared to act. And here is one of the most important points in this entire video. If you purchase the right home today and rates come down later, you may have a realistic opportunity to refinance. But if you wait and the prices go up, they increase, you cannot refinance that higher purchase price back down. Refinancing is never guaranteed. It depends on the future rates, your credit, your equity, the loan program, and your financial position at the time. But the basic principle remains. Your mortgage may potentially be changed later. The price you agreed to pay for the property cannot be changed after the sale. So what should a serious buyer be doing right now? Somebody who's really thinking about Laguna Niguel or anywhere in South Orange County. Become fully approved rather than pre-qualified. Know the complete payment you can afford comfortably, including principal, interest, property taxes, insurance, homeowner dues, and many other ownership costs. Follow the inventory in the specific neighborhoods that matter to you. Pay attention to homes with long market value times, price negotiations, price reductions, or signs that the seller may be more motivated than the average. And be prepared to evaluate every opportunity before the change of the market takes the decision in another direction. Because preparation is what allows you to move while other buyers are still waiting for permission from the next headline. So why might buyers who wait for the rate cuts eventually regret it? They may regret it because the lower interest rate simply does not save as much money as they expected. They may regret it because the home prices have continued to rise in the many areas that they wanted the most. They may regret it because competition increased the moment affordability was announced and improved. They may regret it because sellers became less willing to negotiate. They may regret it because the one home that truly fit their needs sold while they were still waiting. Most importantly, they may regret it confusing hesitation with strategy. Waiting can be a completely responsible decision, but only when it's intentional and supported by the numbers. If the payment truly does not work, waiting is appropriate. Do not stretch your finances beyond a reasonable comfort level simply because you're afraid of missing out. But if you're waiting only because you assume the market will automatically become easier 6 months from now, be careful. In Laguna Niguel and other highly desirable parts of South Orange County, later does not necessarily mean easier or cheaper. Sometimes the better opportunity appears when the market feels a little uncertain, not after every single buyer has become confident again. The buying decision to wait, looking beyond the interest rate headline, and ask one final question: what might change while I'm waiting? I want to remind you my purpose here today was not to frighten you, pressure you, or convince you in any way, shape, or form. I want you to look at the entire picture of purchase price, monthly payment, inventory, competition, negotiating power, lifestyle, long-term value of owning the right home in the right location. If you're serious about buying in Laguna Niguel or any surrounding community in South Orange County, the question should not be only, should I wait for interest rates to come down? The better question is, what would the right decision look like acting now versus possibly waiting? That is where intelligent real estate decisions are made, not through headlines, not through fear, or attempts to outguess exactly what the Federal Reserve will do, but to understand the local market, knowing your financial boundaries, and being prepared when the right opportunity appears. Because in this market, the buyer who succeeds is not always the buyer who waits the longest. It's often the buyer who is the most informed, the most disciplined, and the best prepared. I will help you on that journey. I'm Randy Orr with Berkshire Hathaway California Properties. If you are considering a home in Laguna Niguel or any of the surrounding cities in South Orange County, where I know inside and out, having 30 plus years of experience, this is the strategy that makes sense. Work with me. Let me counsel you. Let's start a conversation. I'm Randy Orr with Berkshire Hathaway, changing lives one home at a time.